British Columbia is still burning after 2+ weeks of wildfires causing havoc across the interior of the province. As of this week, 40,000 people are still evacuated out of their homes. But where is Prime Minister Trudeau? He's been missing in action this entire time. Not enough time for his PMO staff to stage the perfect photo bomb this time around, I guess. Today, Trudeau and Premier John Horgan are meeting in Ottawa, and I don't doubt that they are discussing and trying to coordinate plans to deal with the wildfire situation. But this lack of a visit, or even just a flying over of the fires for half a day to let British Columbians know our leader cares about what's happening to our province and bring some relief and smiles to the faces of the evacuees, should be expected from our Prime Minister. This, unfortunately, seems to be a bit of a trend for Trudeau to ignore British Columbia ever since he approved the Kinder Morgan pipeline. If you recall, earlier in the year, Trudeau embarked on a cross-Canada town hall tour that left out British Columbia in the aftermath of the pipeline approval. And really, would it have been so hard for Justin Trudeau and his staff to work in a flyover of the fires a couple weekends ago, the Sunday after his brief cameo at the Calgary Stampede on that Saturday? I was actually shocked he didn't, as I thought it would be a no-brainer. I mean, it was just a couple years ago now that Christy Clark and Stephen Harper took a look together at some of the fires affecting BC that summer and thanked the firefighters fighting them. But more so, I find Justin Trudeau and his government's hypocrisy on climate change here to be the most glaring. You know, between the CBC's meteorologists like Joanna Wagstaff proclaiming every single extreme weather event is because of climate change on her podcast, the CBC's breathless coverage of these fires and them being caused by climate change and the ignorance of the white man, and then, of course, our Environment Minister, Climate Barbie's constant stream of insistence that climate change is the single biggest issue of our time. Well, wouldn't you expect Trudeau and these Liberals to be pointing right at these fires in BC as Exhibit A as to why the government needs to take concrete action on climate change? Well, I guess at times they don't even believe their own rhetoric, do they? But easily the weirdest and most depressing thing Justin Trudeau has done the past couple of weeks, instead of making time for people in BC suffering from the wildfires, is his appearance on a podcast for fans of the show The West Wing, a show that happened to end over 10 years ago, called The West Wing Weekly. There was a Metro News story titled, quote, "Justin Trudeau geeking out on West Wing podcast this week," unquote. Well, that's just another classic example of Trudeau preferring sunny ways to real life. No time for BC, but a podcast on a show that ended 11 years ago? Sign him up! But here's the brass tacks on all this. Justin Trudeau is a celebrity prime minister, and some of us noticed this personality trait and his preference for adoring fans rather than rolling up his sleeves and connecting with everyday Canadians before he was PM, but I do digress. But, you know, it has been displayed for everyone since he became Prime Minister. After all, we saw in March that Justin would rather take in fancy Broadway shows hobnobbing with Manhattan's elite than, you know, actually dealing with issues facing Canadians like, oh, I don't know, the runaway deficits his government has given us. And how do we know that he was doing that on Broadway? Well, thanks to a recent Access to Information packet from Global Affairs, we know Justin Trudeau billed the taxpayer $22,000 for Broadway tickets during his 3-day trip to New York back in March. This completely unprecedented event where a leader of a country had his foreign consulate buy 500 tickets to a show to then give them away to diplomats from places like Cuba and Venezuela while their country is starving, is a prime example of why Justin Trudeau is a globalist prime minister, preferring these glamour gala events with bureaucrats than actually dealing with issues affecting everyday Canadians at home. But just as I was reviewing my story this morning, news broke that Justin Trudeau would be coming to BC. Finally! But originally, not to see the wildfires. No, of course not. Instead, the first thing the Liberals announced was that he would be coming to Surrey, BC for a $1,000 a head fundraiser. I wonder how many Chinese millionaires will be in attendance this time around. Of course, though, in typical Liberal Party fashion, the fundraiser was announced first, and then only after that, during his presser with John Horgan, did Trudeau announce that he was coming to see the fires. Of course, this convenient coordination of a Liberal Party fundraiser and Trudeau's official government business visit of visiting the fires means that the taxpayer will be on the hook for the Challenger jet trip out to Surrey for the fundraiser first, before Justin heads to the fires. It's the Liberal way, folks. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Things are not going well for Justin Trudeau right now, and it seemed to all start this summer with his secret payment to a convicted terrorist in Omar Khadr. Well, at The Rebel, we love to fight back against this sort of stuff, and I checked this morning over at spearkids.com. We've raised over $225,000. We are so close to hitting $250,000. Will you chip in? Head to spearkids.com, and let's right this wrong.